Good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone here. A little bit off the pace this morning, trying to get my studio put back together after last night's mentoring night. Hope you're all awesome and well. Good to see a bunch of you guys on there. Alison, Margaret, Michelle, Stu. Stewie, how are you, mate? Hey, Stu, we should talk. We're ready from a finance point of view. You know what I mean? Let us know if you want to catch up. Gypsy Queen, good morning. Selena, Matt, Michelle, Stephen, Sineth, Ashley, Tony, bunch of great people watching in, and Jatinda. Welcome, first time watching. Fantastic to have you here, mate. From Melbourne. Hopefully you're awesome and staying safe down there. Karen. Oh, thanks for that, Karen. Laura. Awesome. Hey, listen. I rarely do an I told you so, but I told you so. Interesting. We've been, all of us have been chatting about a few things over the past 18 months, 24 months about what's going to happen when borders open again. But we'll chat about that in a minute. Just a quick one for the newbies like Jatinda and anyone else who is new. Jason Witten's my name. I've been property investing over 20 years, 22 plus, in fact, and coaching property investors across Australia and New Zealand over 18 since 2003. And along the way, we've paid a bit of attention, and each morning get together with you guys. Cool, crazy crew, and we just talk a little bit about each day, just a few snippets about what's going on out there in the marketplace. Got a couple of sayings around here. This thing's a marathon, not a sprint. Property takes time, so take your time. Don't rush it. Don't wait forever. There's a sweet spot in there. And certainly the idea that we want to buy well, never sell. What these chats are about each morning is about going the distance, owning real estate, hunkering down for your strategy and your property portfolio. That is certainly worth getting right. So there you go. Krista's all the way from Port Hedland. Oh, Krista. Back in the day, I remember back when I was a lad, first investing, we did a bunch of stuff in Port Hedland, and it did really well. How's the market up there these days, Krista? It's a little less exciting than it used to be. I mean, those property prices went up pretty significantly, but we haven't worked in the sort of the mining town sector for over a decade now, so. There you go. On the up and up again. Well, there you go. That's great to hear, Krista. Fantastic, mate. Well, team, what's going on out there? There's always something to be talking about in the world of real estate and money and wealth and psychology and going the distance. And one thing that's on the agenda, and I've been talking about it for quite a while, is we're going to have a catch-up. Oh, hang on. Oh, there we go. I still got the audio. We're going to have a catch-up in population. Unless you've been living under a rock, then you've noticed, you've seen around the traps that Australia's immigration numbers have significantly reduced. Students not being let into the country, not a lot of new immigrants coming to Australia, which has been a staple for over a decade, even longer, of Australia having new people into the country. Our population expansion in Australia has been negative when it comes to our natural population increase. And there's a few countries around the world like that, places like New Zealand and Australia and others where our population now is aging, getting older. Average age is getting older, less taxpayers in the marketplace. We have a challenge. We've got a problem in the future, 30, 40, 50 years into the future. Our Australian economy relies on all of us producing taxes. And there's a balancing act there. We need people to have jobs. We need to have people in the country. And if we can't have the babies, then how do we get enough people into our country? And that is through immigration. And that's been an Australian staple for quite a while. And my call, I said it a little while ago, is there is a population explosion coming. And why? Because we have to keep up with the needs for the country. And we've been, on the go slow for over 2 years now. It's probably going to be pretty slow for another year. But check this out. And the government is starting to talk about let's get this thing going. We're talking about getting, flights going by Christmas time and borders unlocked and all that sort of stuff. And that's great. That's fantastic. I'm very happy that we'll have some, ability to travel and people to get out and about and, just release that stress and pressure that's sort of boiling away for a lot of people at the moment. But let's have a look at the underlying economics, have a look at the underlying pressure. Tell me, everyone on the chat this morning, on the call this morning, on the live, what do you guys think? Imagine this. Just think about this right now. If you've been out in the marketplace looking for property right now, and there's not a lot of choice and there's a lot of competition right now, what do you think that's going to happen when 5 million people over the next 2 million people over the next 5 years? Just tell me in the chat right now. What do you guys think? What do you think's going to happen if we had a surge of 2 million people come to Australia in the next 5 years? What do you think is going to happen to our real estate marketplace? Just tell me, what do you think? Prices rise again on demand, basically, Ashley. Yeah, absolutely. And the challenge is for a lot of developers and builders, I chatted about the other day, we've got some restrictions, some constrictions right now in the marketplace that are hampering and holding back the world of developing and those sorts of things. I think, and I said this a year ago, gang, and many of you guys have been listening and dialing into the mentoring nights and these coffee chats. We're going to have a massive surge, and I believe if the government doesn't pull their heads out of their bottoms, then that we're going to have a housing shortage, and the government has to get the students back in. The government has to get people into the country. Right now, there are a lot of jobs. There are a lot of jobs that we don't have people to do in Australia. I'd give you an example right now. I just caught up with my accountant the other day, and we've got a property management business. Sam and I have got a couple of businesses, and one of them's property management, and we manage property investors' properties in Brisbane and Melbourne. We think property management is key as part of your 6-star team. Your property manager is one of the most important people to have in your long-term journey, but that's just a bit of an aside. And in property management, you've got to get your accounts audited. And so you have to run a trust account, and it's very serious and important, and you have to do it down to the absolute cent. There can't be $1 out of place, 1 cent out of place. And there's 1,000 jobs. There's over 1,000 auditor jobs on the east coast of Australia. My accountant was telling us, because we need to get our property management books audited. That's part of the process. And they can't get them filled. 1,000 jobs right now for auditors, accounting auditors. Now, sounds to me like the most boring job in the world, but if you're into that thing, that's perfectly fine, and no offense to anyone who's in auditing. Everyone's got a special skill, but there you go, ladies and gents. There are very real undersupplied job skills in the marketplace. We just can't produce in Australia. There you go. Anyway, the point is we are on the cusp. And if it doesn't happen in 2022, it'll certainly be happening in 23 and beyond. And imagine the run. Imagine the run. A 5-year population boom. An Olympics in Brisbane. Like, just imagine this next decade. What's going to happen in the game of real estate? And there's certainly some bumps and some lumps, and there'll be certainly some dumb, stupid decisions made by politicians who've got their heads up their asses and all sorts of stuff. This won't be a clean run to the pot of gold, gang, let me tell you. However, the underlying economics, the underlying pressures will be there to set up a good little energy, a vibe that will support the property market if you buy the right properties in the right places. And that's always the thing, buy well, never sell. That's our catch cry. But let's just have a quick look at this. Here's what's happened. And, if we have a look at, the pandemic world, in 2021, it was down about there. I couldn't get the latest one in the whole chart. But, check it out. We've had, a significant drop, probably the lowest immigration, since the early 90s. And the government needs to catch up on the bodies that we don't have in the country. And what are they going to do about that? I can tell you now. We can crack on. But I just want to show you something. From 2000 until up here, that's sort of 2010. Check out what happened in Australia. And did anyone remember what happened from 2000 to 2010? We had one of the longest bull runs of property prices our country's ever seen. And it was supported. It was underbuilt by massive amounts of immigration into the country. There was other things going on too. We had some mining and we had immigration and we had all sorts of things happening. But folks, I can tell you right now, we're going to see something similar to this for the next 5 years, okay? And that's going to be exciting if we're on that road. And just have a look at this one here. Temporary visas in Australia as well. Now, these people sort of come, for a short period of time, and they get some jobs and they rent houses and whatever, and then they might leave. Might be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. And sort of have a look at this. There's, close to 1 million of those temporary visas that will be bought back, and check out the trajectory of those visas as well. So not only will it be, immigration, there'll be temporary visas, there'll be students coming back, there'll be some pressures in here, okay? So my point to our conversation this morning, team, gang, is to make sure we don't get caught up in this sort of noise, this carry on over the top of the foundations of what makes real estate property prices grow, because we want to make sure we understand the foundations, the fundamentals. And one of those fundamentals, when we talk about the three big ones, when it comes to property prices and pressures, let me just quickly ask you guys that. Let's switch back to the iPad. Tell me, there's three big pressures, and it's spelt easy as pie. Tell me in the chat, gang, what's that? What's the pie? Easy as pie. And I'll read a few of these comments here as we go. We're gonna have a new world order. Rules will change, Raymond. Yep, that's pretty true. I don't think it's sort of James Bond evil rule new world order, but yeah, things are changing. And if you're smart, Raymond, you can be on the front foot of that, and you can, use that to your advantage. That's for sure. And away we're going to go. Yeah, the challenge is, policymakers, politicians, they're not that sharp, are they? But anyway, hopefully a few of them get it right. And away we go. And we did have a significant amount of expats come back to Australia. I think the world of, wanting a safe place to live, Australia is high on the list. So's New Zealand, for people wanting to come to our country. I think that's going to accelerate things significantly. The idea that, digital working from anywhere, working from home is now very mainstream. Someone can be in Australia and hold down a job in London, New York, whatever that might be. I think that's significant. There's a whole lot of these things in there that are going to be pretty important as we go. So there you go. Laura nailed it. Paul had a crack at it. Yep. Population, infrastructure, employment. And Sideth, I reckon employment, economy, I reckon they could interchange for sure. The population, where's the money going? Where do people want to live? Infrastructure, either new infrastructure being created or existing infrastructure for jobs and people to live and stuff like that. Population, interest, and economy. Yeah, actually, interest is in it. I think we can say employment/economy over here on the E is certainly the idea that if people have got jobs, then people invest and take their money from those jobs and they buy houses or they rent. Okay, one of the two as we go. If interest rates go up, and I don't think they will for quite a while, that will only accelerate our rental explosion across the country. But we'll keep that one for another day, I think, as we go. So let's just maybe talk about what that looks like. So, team, hopefully that makes sense. There's some pressures on the horizon that are fundamental and underwrite the property market. They're very normal. They're very reliable. If you have a population increase in any way, shape, or form, you will have pressures on housing. It's a staple. It's a fundamental. You need housing for people who are here. Like someone said, new immigrants, it might take quite a while for them to be, excuse me, to be able to buy a property. So they will rent. So that'll be good for rentals. And whether you like it or not, the person that will be allowed into the country will be very financially viable. Okay, they won't come in with no money. They will come in with money. They'll come in with skills. They'll add to the economy immediately, and that'll be good for the country. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense to all of you guys, and we might just leave it there. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted for the day. Hopefully you guys are awesome. If you haven't already, and if you didn't know, you can grab the Wealth Coffee Chat on a podcast. If you if you are traveling or it's a bit more difficult to connect and catch up on the lives, then you can grab it on Spotify or iTunes. It's not as good because you can't see the scribbling. Scribbling's, I don't know, sometimes it's a bit hard to read, don't you think? Yeah, but you get the message, you get the picture, and away we go. So that's it. Wealth Coffee Chat done. Ladies and gents, see you guys tomorrow around about the same time, about 8:05, 8:10. I try to get it going as early as I can because I know everyone's at work and we need to finish by about 8:30 Queensland time, 9:30 wherever else. So there you go. All right, team, done and dusted. You guys have an awesome day and chat to you tomorrow. All right, adios.